Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Elsie, who is here on behalf of United. Well, Elsie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I need some sun. We all need vitamin D, as it turns out, for to help us not get COVID.
They're finding out all sorts of things. And you know, sunshine is important no matter what.
It is.
COVID or not, it's great for uplifting your spirits. And like you said, you can get vitamin D. And, you know, over the next couple of weeks, we are looking at some nice weather, even though that doesn't really help what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I know. I guess I could walk around with my face up in the air, but anyway, I'm.
No, I mean that's good for our face for the most part to get a little sun. But aren't you talking to us about water?
I am talking about water, Lisa, and as usual, thank you for bringing me on topic. You know, I love to save things. I'm not a hoarder, but I like to save space, and I like to save. I like to recycle things. I like to reuse things. But what I like the most of all is saving water, because I'm a native Californian, and I've seen a lot of cycles. You know, drought, flood. Wow, one time they shut down the entire 5 freeway because the water was up to the crossover.
Yeah.
Pretty serious. Excuse me. But these droughts may be getting longer and longer, as we know, because of climate change. So we're just going to deal with this as if, you know, and here in South County, it's always a problem.
Yeah.
I have a few factoids. I know you don't believe that, but I have a few little factoids, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First of all, United Mutual's residents are doing a great job of reducing their actual water usage. So I'm very pleased about that. As you know, we don't have individual water meters. Excuse me. We don't have individual water meters on each unit, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but we can look at the overall year-on-year usage of water, and we're doing okay. We're gradually, slowly but surely. But we have still, as of November the 30th, I'm sorry, I keep looking at your face instead of at the camera. On November the 30th, as of November the 30th, we had consumed just in United, just short of $2 million worth of water. And of course that includes everything, but it doesn't matter. The numbers are huge. I could tell you the gallons, but it's $2 million worth. It's 1.8 and change. And that doesn't even include the sewer costs, and those kick in after the water, because when you're done with your water, of course, you put it into the pipes one way or the other. Right. And then there's a separate sewage charge. So clearly, the more water we put into the sewage lines, then the more our charges are, which is money well spent. I mean, we need water and we need sewer treatment in order to live, actually. Mm-hmm. But it's always a good thing to use a precious and expensive resource wisely, I believe. And I think anybody could agree with that. VMS Landscaping is doing its part. They're, aside from using recycled water on a lot of their irrigation, not all of it, but a lot of it. In addition to that, VMS is converting some of the village areas to landscaping more suitable to the dry California climate. You know, we're in a desert, you know, people forget that, but this is basically a desert. And any part that's not desert has to be water. So they're putting in some more drought tolerant, more, I forget what they call it. The word is not visiscape. But anyway, it's a whole process where you just save tons and tons of water. And it looks really pretty too. And VMS Maintenance and Construction has been installing more efficient toilets and water tanks for years. But there's still a lot that we as residents can do to conserve.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, and in fact, I just spoke with the El Toro Water District the other day, and he's got great information about water, and he concurs with you about saying how great the residents have been in conserving water. And as you noticed around the area, you see more succulents, you see more gravel or, you know, mulch or things that will help retain the water better. So that's great. You know, when we talk about El Toro Water District, we do find out where our water comes from them. But they get their water from somewhere else. So it's not like we have water just waiting around for us.
No, we don't. Did you know, Lisa, that virtually, no, I didn't say literally, I said virtually all Orange County water is imported from other places. All South Orange, please excuse me, South Orange County, which is where we are, is imported from other places. Most of it travels over 700, almost 800 miles to get here from way up north. And I'm sure you've heard of the aqueduct system that we have all through the Great Central Valley. And finally, that water gets down to us from various sources, but it's all up north. And some of it actually comes a little shorter distance, only 242 miles, but that's not as dramatic as 700. So I'll stick with that. For a lot of reasons, we just don't have an accessible ground water system here. Okay, we just don't. They do in North County, but even North County still has to import nearly half of their water, even though they have a subterranean groundwater system that's workable, which ours is not. Here's another interesting fact. From the time that they started measuring rainfall in California in 1877, that's 143 years ago, we started measuring the rainfall. It was an issue then. The rainfall in the greater Los Angeles area, which we are really in the greater Los Angeles area. I know we're Orange County, I know we're South Orange County, but psychologically or not, we're in the greater LA basin, and it has maintained a consistent average rainfall over the last 143 years. How about that? It's like it just averages out. You can just see it. The average runs straight, and it's just straight. You know, if your average increases, obviously the line goes up, or if it decreases, it goes down. Well, we're getting, or we have been getting for 143 years, the same amount of average rainfall.
Wow.
But that average includes, you know what an average is you take everything together and put it in the same hat and then divide it by the number of years. That average includes a lot of long drought cycles. We have very long drought cycles here in Southern California, as you know. Now, our average rainfall for the last 143 years has been just under 15 inches a year. That sounds pretty good if you're from Nevada, okay? And Nevada gets an average of less than 10 inches a year.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you're from Washington State, because we have residents from all over the country and the world, if you're from Washington State, they get a whopping 120 inches per year, 120 inches on average. I cannot imagine that much rain.
That's a lot of rain.
That's a lot of rain.
My hair is already curling just hearing it.
Yeah, and my skin's getting better, and I mean, all that rain's terrific.
Good for the hair.
But so to them, to people from Washington State, we must seem like the Sahara Desert. I mean, the difference is just phenomenal. The difference between 120 inches and 15 inches, and that's all just on the same continent. It's so we're a big place, and okay. And in that average of Los Angeles, greater area, Los Angeles rainfall, that rain can vary from 3 inches of measurable rainfall per year to 35 inches of rainfall per year. And that, getting back to what I told you about the flooded freeway that one year where the oranges were floating, that's back when we still had orange trees, and the oranges were floating on the water down the 5. It was really something. People got stuck, obviously, you know, coming home from work, they couldn't go home. So that must have been one of our 35-inch years. And during that same period of time, through the years, the population of Orange County has more than doubled since 1970, more than doubled. And since 1960, it has quadrupled.
Yeah. So
now we have over 3 million souls living in Orange County. Right. Not in South Orange County, but in all of Orange County. 3 million people, whereas there were just like less than 1 million as recently as 1960, which seems like a long time ago, but when you get to be my age, 1960 is just like it was yesterday. So in Orange County was just a bunch of trees, you know, and a few beach towns, but
Right.
times have changed. So you can see that we cannot depend on just the rain to keep us alive. Okay, if we're depending on the rain, then we either need to move or pick out our coffin and make our plans, because the rain is not going to keep us alive. No way. It
Right.
helps, but and it cleans the air, but we don't have enough rain here for this many people.
Right.
We oh, and certainly not to water. That's just to stay alive, and never mind our landscaping and our swimming pools. So we can be thankful for those miles and miles of aqueducts. Yay.
Exactly. And you know, Californians, or at least Orange County folks, aren't the only ones of concern that are concerned. I mean, you have people in Arizona who are concerned, especially those drier areas, because they have more and more people moving there as well. So, you know, we're not the only ones that are concerned. However, when I was talking to the El Toro Water District, the nice thing is that they have lots of these reservoirs that they are expanding, and they're trying to find more areas for those, and that's the good thing. That'll help save us in a situation when we do have those droughts. So
I was just reading an article about a reservoir there, and a friend of mine used to work for reclamation, and they're putting in the Colorado River, because it was one of those darn things that was back and forth, and no, it's bad for this, and no, it's good for this. And it seems to me it's like, duh, you know, of the course they should put in a reservoir off the Colorado River. All that water just flows into the Gulf of Mexico, and it isn't enough to do anybody any good, you know, by the time it gets down there. So in a reservoir, it'd be very good.
exactly.
So that was interesting information you got from El Toro.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he or whoever it is that I interview over there always has lots of information about, you know, how much cost they have to spend on saving the water and building the plants and recycling the water. And, you know, it is good. And, you know, because you're talking about water and how we can save water, I'm sure that we can, you know, maybe not flush the toilet as many times, or leave our running water while we're brushing our teeth. But, you know, what else can residents do?
Well, I hate to say this, but one of the worst water wasters, just on a common level, everything you said is absolutely accurate about flushing your toilet. And yeah, just turn off the water while you're brushing your teeth. And the same thing with doing your dishes. If you do dishes in the sink, go ahead and wash your dishes and put them in the other sink, because I mean, most people have a double sink, and then rinse them off all at once. I mean, there's so many ways we cannot leave the water running. Just like your mom always said, don't leave the water running. But one of the worst water wasters is still the common water hose. There's a lot of hoses in United and in Third as well. And they're terrific, they're handy, but you really don't need to use a hose to water your patio plants. We really need to be using watering cans or some other method such as that. It's like you go out to the hose, fill up your watering can, or your sink, is just where I fill them up, because it's all sweet water. So you're going to use the same amount of water, but it's a much better idea to use watering cans. And as far as our cars go, you need to take them to a car wash, or just use a bucket. That's good exercise too. When you're out in the sun getting vitamin D, if there's water sources in the carports, and just fill up your bucket, you know, scrub down your car with your little soap and everything, and then rinse your car off quickly. But better to take it to an outside car wash. But if you want to water your own, that's what you do. Don't use the hose to just, you know, because and people walk away, or they get to talking, or, you know, they're talking to Mrs. McGillicuddy and looking at pictures of her grandkids, and the hose is running into the sewer.
You know, those car washes are using recycled water.
Yes, exactly. And they're still using water, but it's recyclable, and B, because it's a profit-making business and they're paying for their own water and they know how much they're using, they're very careful to just maximize the use of that water. Exactly. So it's sort of like, one more little factoid, sorry. At 15 gallons or more per minute using a hose just for 10 minutes, it's 150, and for 20 minutes it's 300 gallons of water. So think about that. And that much doesn't clean your car, it just goes into the sewer. mostly. So think
Exactly.
about that.
Yeah.
And do I have time for a couple more or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. This is about laundry. Laundry is another one of my favorite issues. When we do the laundry, we should make sure that we only use full loads. I know so many people, I see them I don't go into people's houses when they're doing their laundry, so I don't know. But in the laundry room where I go, I see people all the time just putting these tiny little loads in, just a few pair of underpanties or just a couple of shirts. Well, I get it, but that's just a horrible waste of water, because the poor machine doesn't know. We don't have these AI machines that will say, oh, that looks like it only needs 2 gallons of water. That's all I'm going to use to wash these shirts. No, it's going to use the water that it takes. And there is some adjustment for the amount of load you put in, but generally, we all know that you should use full loads. I have one neighbor who's really good about water, and he never separates his colors from his whites. I have a sneaking suspicion that he's maybe a little bit lazy as well. I'm not positive, but he's a nice guy. And that way he only does one load, because he lives alone. And so he does one big load and he always uses cold water, of course, so the colors don't bleed onto the white. And that also saves water, because when you have to heat up the water, even though it's heated inside the machine, it still uses more water. So he's doing a good job. He gets an A. I'm really hardwired to separate my clothes. Sorry, I just can't do it. I just cannot wash my whites with my colors. That's me. That's not you.
All the darks would bleed into my whites, so that just doesn't work for me, for sure. Moving on, just to
but I was just going to say, but I wait till I have a full load of each type.
Oh, well, yes, that's good. Well, good
Yeah.
for you. I don't even know if I have that many clothes to last that long, or at least the ones I want to wear.
My husband wears a lot of socks, so I have to.
Now, because we are running out of time, let's jump to the very last thing real quick. Tell me why plants love vegetable water.
The old pot liquor trick. Yes. I don't know about you, but when I was a little girl, all my older aunties and stuff called the water that was left over from cooking vegetables pot liquor. Actually, I think I started hearing that in Arkansas. It doesn't matter. But the pot liquor, after you cook your vegetables, a lot of the vitamins bleed out of the vegetables. We know that. The most healthy is to eat them raw. But if you don't like your broccoli raw and you cook your broccoli or whatever you cook, that's good water. There's nothing wrong with that water at all. And it's got vitamins in it that just came out of the vegetables. So it really isn't that much trouble to just leave the pot until it cools and then take it out and water your patio plants with the pot liquor. And so that way you're not only conserving water, but you're also actually giving nutrients to your plants.
I love it. That is a great tip. Thank you so much. And Elsie, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see you too, Lisa, and you're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll be right back after this.